Very warm welcome. I'm Karin Holley. I'm a certified leadership and mindset coach, and I support high achieving leaders and professionals improve their performance, their relationships, and their well being. And this is my Authentic Pathways interview series where I talk with leaders whom I find inspiring and are leading lives that are true to who they are and their values. And today I'm speaking with Ashwin Didwania. He is a business owner and a logistics professional with over 30 years of experience. He's also, I found out today, a published author with his book titled Logistics Legend, which has become an Amazon bestseller. Ashwin is an avid sportsman who has run marathons. He also meditates, flies aircrafts, and he's also a parent of small kids. And I know Ashwin to be very cool, very composed and friendly. But in his business circles, he's known for his calm aggressiveness. So we'll have to hear more about that, Ashwin. He's curious and loves diving into details, learning new things, and embracing new experiences. Ashwin and I met at a networking event in the Netherlands and hit it off because of our common interest in meditation. But before we get into meditation and energy and mind management, tell us a little bit more about yourself and the nature of the business that you're in.
Well, hi, Karen. Hello, everyone. I would love to be the person you've just described because it doesn't sound like me at all.
It is
But
you, Ashwin, though.
all right, hi, guys. Hello, everyone. I'm Ashwin, and I'm originally born and brought up in India. Spent first 45 years of my life in India, and I moved to Netherlands 6 years ago. I own and run a logistics company, which is spread across India, Sri Lanka, Netherlands, and opening up in Poland, employing over 200 people. I'm passionate about life in general. I enjoy my work as much as my rest. I am very honored and pleased to be here today. My business is in international transportation. I help companies move their products from A to B efficiently, competitively, and easily. Somewhat like a DHL, but a boutique experience. So you get more personalized service. It's not a Hilton or it's not a big chain, it's a boutique firm. A lot of my work involves meeting customers, convincing them to work with me. It's a service business. So, in effect, you're selling your trust, you're selling your energy. People are working with you because they feel like working with you, somewhat like what Karen does.
The business success, Ashwin, that you've achieved is because people choose you. And we've also talked about the incredible hustle culture that the logistics world has. I was very curious about that because I know you to be very calm and composed whenever we meet. And yet you work in an incredibly stressful, high energy, hustle environment. And so I'm very curious when you started realizing that you needed to do something about or be able to manage this stressful environment. Was that years ago? Was it recent? What led you to think, I need to deal with the hustle? And then how?
Karen, you're absolutely right. This business or most businesses are like top sport. So you need to be mentally, physically active, agile, energetic. Especially in a service business, you need to give the impression to your clients that you're there for them. You can deliver on demand, and it requires a lot of hustling, following up. These attributes have served me extremely well during the initial phases of my career and while building the business. But early into my 40s, I realized that this is not something that I can sustain, and
Mm-hmm.
that there are younger, hungrier people entering this business. And my client profile also will not age with me. The client profile will remain static between 30 to 50, whereas I would keep moving beyond that demographic. And moving away from hustling, it more became hustling implies more of a selling, more of going out there and pitching. It became more about attracting. I focused more about my USP, my energy, attract the right people to work with me, attract the right kind of clients. And it moved away from hustling to providing value. My client profile changed, the way I sold, the way I built the business kept evolving over time. So it wasn't hustle. It started with hustle, but it's not something that is sustainable, at least for me.
Mm.
For some people, it works well for their entire careers. For me, it transitioned more to being authentic, being real, sharing what you can do, what you cannot do. And there are enough clients out there who, and people out there who wish to work with that rather than a hustler.
Well, a lot of my clients actually come to me for this reason, right? They are used to or have worked a lot in that hustle environment, and then it is no longer sustainable. And you've started to become more conscious and intentional about your energy management and working on that so that you attract the right people. How do you do that, Ashwin? Because that's the big golden key to how do we manage and work still in this hustle environment, but not be hustle, but actually be calm, composed, and find the time maybe even to manage our energy.
You hit a very relevant point, Karen. So, when you talk about what is stress,
Mm.
so the definition of stress is too much to do, too little time, and low energy. And that equals to stress. So the factors, firstly, understanding why energy is important, because the too much to do is never going to go away. The to-do list is only going to get bigger. It's a hard one. Too little time. That's again a constant. These two things, our to-do lists, yes, somewhat in our control, but theoretically, these two factors are more external. The time is the same for the prime minister as it is for the sweeper. So then comes to the third element, which is energy. At the cellular level, protons, neutrons, electrons. When the energy is high, you can think better, you can work better, you make clearer decisions, and you're far more productive. When you speak about energy, how do I raise, or how I see it is it's at multiple levels. Energy is got through traditional sources, the traditional sources of food, sleep, but going ahead, there's exercise. And the most important thing is a calm mind. And that has been through the practice of meditation, yoga, breathing exercises. So it is a combination of mental calmness, which comes through yoga, meditation, as well as physical discipline, which comes through diet, sleep, exercise, and a little bit of positive reading or staying with the right kind of people or building the right kind of communications and friendships in within your family or
Mm.
outside, because that also has an impact in your mindset. So when you are very conscious of these factors, then automatically you increase your energy levels. And with the right energy, there's a lot more joy in achieving or in working. And instead of draining, it goes to energizing. So the shift happens where, with the right energy, whatever you do can actually be an energizer rather than a drainer.
And when have you started this energy management? So you've also always done sports, but you mentioned sleep and diet, the meditation, breath. When did you start doing these things, Ashwin?
So, over 20 years ago, I used to be a heavy smoker back in the day. It was very cool when I was growing up. And I saw my grandfather pass away due to lung cancer. That kind of shook me. And the doctor, I was speaking to him, and he said, "Oh, it's because of the smoking habit." And actually, you know it's not good, but when you see it in front of your eyes, then you realize the impact. And that was when I was 27, 28. At that time, I realized, okay, I need to stop, but I was too addicted. For me, it's very hard to give up something, but the way I function is I try and do the exact opposite of what it is I'm trying to. So if I'm trying to quit smoking, I will not focus on quitting smoking. I'll focus on starting to run. I decided I'll sign up for the marathon because these two things cannot coexist. You cannot be a smoker and run a marathon. So I figured that if I'm going to wake up early every morning and go running, I'll be so out of breath that I will not feel like a cigarette. And, during that process, once you start adopting a sort of a healthy lifestyle, you come in touch with different kind of people. I was
Mm.
going through different challenges, personal and professional, as people are in their late 20s, early 30s. Lucky to be living in a country like India at that time where there is a lot of help in terms of meditation, spiritual guidance, a lot of good courses with very good teachers and organizations. I found out about an organization called the Art of Living, and I've been following their courses since over 20 years. It's been a beautiful journey. I found this organization or this meditation practice, it's my anchor. That's been my center for, if I have to say what is the one most important thing in my life, it would be this. I could give up everything else but this. So this has kept me managing my energy, my peace of mind, takes me through good and bad times.
And you mentioned the spirituality, Ashwin, and how growing up in India was helpful because it's part of the culture. And that is something that I have noticed, not coming from an Asian background where meditation is not common. It can be seen as really woo woo. And when you even use the word spirituality, people are already like, oh my God, what's that? You're hippie and you're just, maybe chanting all the time, or I don't know. Like we have these connotations about meditation in the West. And I'm wondering, you have now experienced both cultures, right? In India, where it's absolutely normal to have a meditation practice and everyone accepts it, to here in the Netherlands, where sometimes when I say I have a meditation practice, it just falls flat. It's not a topic of conversation. It's like, oh, that's just a little weird. So how do you manage those cultural differences?
Good question. One thought comes to me. So, like with anything that one does, if you want to learn football, you go to a football coach. And if you want to learn anything, you go to a teacher at school. Or if you want to get coached, people come to Karin. Now, it is not about the practice of meditation itself. I think people in India or even in the West, I find the resistance is more who's teaching, what is the agenda behind this? Because there have been a few bad apples. Religion, spirituality has got usually the bad news makes news. And that permeates broader society, and people tend to have an image that does not seem right. Usually the people, the con artists are out there. So finding or recognizing a true master, which we can easily see in a country like India because it's very visible. You can make out, for example, when I started doing the art of living, I noticed that not just my friends, but influential business leaders, prominent members of society were all actively in or in some shape and form learning meditation through that organization. So people that I looked up to, my school friends, business leaders. So I found a lot of acceptance. And I
Mm.
found it was me basically finding the person authentic. So I think it is not about East or West, it's about you having faith that where you're learning it from is the organization or the person is the right one. And I think the other aspect is When you think of typically in the space of a master, if someone says, "This is my guru" or "This is my master," in the West, maybe it is perceived more top down, that I'm your master, you're my slave. So it is seen in that context, someone who dominates. Whereas on the spiritual path in the East, a master is encouraging his disciples to exceed him. So the master is there to encourage and make the disciple grow. And that's the space, and that is the connotation what I as an Indian have of what a master is: someone who's there to elevate you, somewhat like a coach. Whereas, in your practice you use the term coach, and you're here to help and facilitate them to, or your clients to, lead better lives or be better versions of themselves.
Mm.
If you switched around and said you were a master, immediately you would, or a guru, it could be doing the same thing, but because of the title and its connotation, that's where it's somehow lost in translation.
Yeah, okay, that makes sense to me. I think even the judgment of people, because there was another businessman that I met through the meditation courses that is very secretive about his practice because he got a lot of judgment from the close people around him that were not partaking in meditation. And when I even asked him if he could join my podcast, he said, "No way, I'm not coming public about this practice because people will start to question my business decisions." Super interesting. Whereas when I hear you talk, you say meditation actually amplifies your decision making power and gives you more clarity and allows you to connect even better with people. And you're not secretive about it. You're even, you go to workshops, you're on the path to becoming a teacher. So I wonder, what would you say to this business person or anyone else who's struggling to admit to the people around them that this is important for them? It's a life choice that they're making, and it's bringing them beautiful things. And yet there's this judgment from outside. What would you say to them? Because, yeah, you mentioned authenticity as well.
Good question, Karen. So I would ask this businessman, like wherever he's facing judgment from, he should question, what are they judging? When he's going for a course, for the Art of Living course, what is the Art of Living course saying? Breathe, breathe deeply, be calm. How is that wrong, or how is that to be embarrassed about? Live in harmony with everyone. Be happy. Accept people and situations as they are. Be a good human being. Now, everything, they're not once is saying we are better, they are worse. There is no division. It is a culture of complete inclusivity. The Art of Living has teachers which are Hindu, Muslim, Christian, Jew. When you go to the advanced teachings, they tell you all religions are the same. Don't see distinction between nationality, religion. They're only encouraging people to be happy, to help one another, to be the best versions of themselves, to breathe deeply, to smile. They're working with prisoners to help uplift, to make sure that they also have access to these tools so that they don't commit crimes. They're helping with different charities, humanitarian work globally. It's been recognized by governments across the world. So everything that is being done is for the betterment of the
Mm.
human being. And it touches upon the simple core basic values, universal values. So again, is the person who, are they against all of this? Is, the businessman who's embarrassed, or they're judging him, are they judging him because, hey, you should actually be angry and you should be upset all the time, and then you're cool, and then we will accept you, and you should, say everybody else is bad, we are good? I mean, on what basis are they saying it is bad?
Mm.
There's nothing concrete.
It's
So
hard
I
to
would,
argue with the things you bring up, Ashwin. That's for sure.
so if there's nothing, if it's just, oh, they're saying, oh, it's bad because they don't understand it. And then that's more of a them problem. I think the best thing I would tell him is to lead his life by example, by being a good human being, by being successful, by growing. People want to emulate that. By being peaceful, by being calming, by being a loving human being. You can't argue against that, can you?
So, Ashwin, I myself have been on sort of this journey as well, not so much through meditation to begin with, more, I guess, mindfulness, which really taught me to be much more in the present moment. And what's so interesting is I found that practice to be increasingly spiritual, which is what also led me to more meditation and more consistent meditation. So I'd love to hear from you also. How do you combine this, the business world, the concrete world, the practical side of life, being a father, having to pick up your kids, and deal with problems at work, and then have this aspect of meditation that you are now saying it's not only energy, it's becoming spiritual for me. What do you mean with that?
At our core, we are spiritual. What drives us. Everything else is always changing. Our bodies are changing, our needs, desires, situations, business environment. Our kids are small now, they're growing up later on. We were kids once, we will be old later on. So, and then, mindfulness is dealing with the mind, but the spirit level is transcending all of them. It is just being in that moment with whatever one is doing. For me, if I'm attending to a problem at work, then I'm giving my 100% and I'm doing it with the best energy and intention I can. And then if my child screams and I have to go and attend to him, then that's the call of duty there.
Hmm.
And in all of this, the one person who is always acting is me. And the energy I bring to it, the attention I bring to it, and the manner I address it will impact how it will come up or not come up again. I'm not sure if I'm answering your question correctly, but I do find that spirituality is not compartmentalization of your work life, your duty as a parent, what you do at home, so on and so forth. It is one and it is
Hmm.
encompassing everything. It encompasses each and every aspect. And because you are there in all of that, we play multiple roles, but there's one thing is common to all those roles is us. To nourish that is supremely important so that you can be the best father when it's required, you can be the best business person when it's required, you can be the best son when it's required, or the best possible that you can be. So you address everything from that space, which comes from a lot of calm, then stress.
So you're describing a way of being. A lot of us compartmentalize our life. It's like work and personal life, and then there's my health, and then there's even a coaching tool called the Wheel of Life, where you have it's like a pie piece, and you're like, how am I doing with my business? How am I doing with my finances? How am I doing with my health? Some people make a pie piece of spirituality, and it's almost like what you're describing is like spirituality is at the center, and that affects all those other pie pieces on a daily basis, just on a moment to moment basis. It's that nourishing of the self.
Well, if you know it, you don't ask it. Those who don't know it can answer it. So, sorry, I don't mean to put it back at you,
That's funny.
but it goes beyond the realm of logic. So see, there's tangible, there's the body, the breath is there, your mind is there, your memory is there, your intellect is there, your ego is there. So these are aspects that's made you. But all of these are always in change. But beyond all these layers, there is something called the pure self, the silence, where all of this originates. And that you can glimpse during meditation. That is what you tap into when you're going through a really rough moment. Let me take a moment, let me breathe deeply. You're tapping into yourself when you're faced with a panic situation. And at that time, instead of losing it, at that time, you can go back, take a moment, breathe. You're tapping into that something called self. And that gives you the awareness and the space and the ability to respond. So, to cultivate a stronger sense of self, it takes a lot of practice. And meditation, reading spiritual texts, being in the right company are all steps to move in that direction. The discovery of the self is ongoing, it's not a destination, it's always going to be a journey. The most difficult thing is patience in that journey.
What's difficult about it?
Today, if you wanted to lose weight, you would start going to the gym, you would exercise, you would control your diet, and then in 3 months, you would see a difference, and that would motivate you to continue doing that, right? And this is happening at the body level. Now, imagine you kept doing all this, and even after 6 months, you did not see any change. Because we're so wired to, oh, I meditated today, so why am I upset when something wrong happens in the afternoon? The body changes a lot faster than the mind, and the subconscious changes even slower. With meditation, it's a very slow, like, so whatever you hear, meditate in 21 days and come out a new person. It's like one of those fads, 21-day diets and stuff like that. So with this, the results are not apparent immediately, but over time. And that's why very few people have the patience to go through it, because you don't see the results immediately. It takes a lot more time of sustained practice and faith, especially when people say, what are you doing? Oh, you're meditating every day and you're still like this. Nothing has changed. But you know what you're doing, and you know that it takes time. The most difficult thing is not seeing the results in the time span you expect.
That's so true. I remember when I've gone on and off meditation for years, and during a particularly difficult period in my life, I thought, you know what? I'm going to meditate. That must help me. So at the end of a very tiring, stressful day, I would spend maybe 10 minutes, maybe 20 minutes doing a guided meditation. And I did it for about a month. I'm like, it's not working. So it's very funny that you say that, because I agree. It's patience. And yet, because of you and my introduction as well to the courses, and now I've been meditating for the past 6 months on a daily basis. And for the first time, I've been able to be consistent with my meditation. And I really also enjoy the non guided meditations. I like being by myself, with myself, in my silence or the chatter of my mind, just to observe it and become aware of it. So, Ashwin, how consistent should we be if in 6 months' time or longer, you've been doing it for 20 years, we want to be more connected with the self. We want to have a calmer mind. We want to have more energy. What's that practice look like?
Okay, so I will put the question back at you. If you want to be a great pianist, or a violinist or a football player, how does that path look? And if you play 3 times a week, you'll be okay, but you won't be great. If you play 4 times a week, you'll be better. If you play every single day, it'll become muscle memory. You look at anybody who's achieved anything, and this is at the mind level. So the first thing it requires is daily practice, because this thing works at a very deep level and it's very nuanced. So a sustained daily practice, it can happen. You miss it one day, 2 days. For me, the hack is I try not to miss anything more than 2 days in a row, which I consider important, be it exercise, be it meditation. It can happen, life situation, you're busy a day, you're traveling, stuff happens. So day one, day two. So the consistency. So that without the consistency, you will not reap the rewards of anything. So you can't expect, oh, I will work once or twice a week on my new project and hopefully it'll take off. No. Or, if you want to pick up a skill, if you want to do anything, you need to give it time. If you want to achieve anything, this requires a commitment of that time. So it requires a commitment of, for example, 30 minutes a day to start with. But I invest these 30 minutes to make my 23 and a half hours amazing. So I give 1 hour in return for 23 amazing hours. Over a point of time, you move to a mindset of enjoying the process. So if you're learning to play soccer or play an instrument, initially it's work. But once you cross a certain threshold, it becomes a habit. And then you start enjoying the process itself. You fall in love with the whole process. So give yourself time to fall in love because it's a beautiful process. So consistency. And the second thing, apart from the consistency, is honoring the practice. So it could be, okay, I sit down, I'm playing, oh, I have to go and play football. And you go through the motions physically, but your heart is not in it. Or, for your piano class or whatever. So here it is a consistent practice and to do it with honor. With honor, the definition of that is give a little bit of sacredness, that it's a beautiful gift. When you approach anything with honor, be it a friendship, be it work, be it family, be it any situation, you elevate that. So the honoring of the practice and the consistency of the practice. And that applies to everything. Like you see in your coaching, you honor your coachee, you honor your profession, you respect it, and you invest time in your art. And that shows.
Yeah, it's interesting because I've actually gone into meditation to become a better coach. It's been a very purposeful journey. Besides noticing that I had this like desire for more spirituality, it was happening whether I liked it or not already through sort of the mindfulness practice as part of my coaching program. I was experiencing that. And then now it's been 6 months or so of about an hour, 45 minutes to an hour of meditation. And yeah, it's brought it to a whole nother level. And life starts to look very different in that ability to have some distance, to observe. I think that when you talk about the self, I see the self also as that little piece of you that has that power to observe everything that's changing. Like when people ask you, it's your birthday, and everyone asks you, oh, how do you feel? You must feel so different. Like, I feel exactly the same. No, I haven't changed. My body has changed. Technically, this is an important day for me when I came into the world, but that I is the same. And it's funny because I noticed that, especially with my father, he always had this like really young spirit. And even when he was 70 years old, he was talking about wanting to learn mountain biking. I'm like, Dad, like you don't have the body. I understand you have the self who wants that, right? Because he was still so young at heart, always stayed that way. But his body obviously wasn't going to allow for mountain biking down. I thought that would be the end of him, but he ended up not ever doing that. But I think that's because he saw himself still as that energized, consistent being and interested in the world and wanting to explore it. So I think that's interesting to think about the ability to observe all those changing things around you and going back to your authentic self. And in my coaching, we also talk a lot about that. What is authenticity? How do you know when you're authentic? How do you know when you're not authentic? And maybe, Ashwin, that's another question for you. Are there still times where you do put your guard up or you feel inauthentic and are not able to access that calmness, that centering, the groundedness that you usually have?
Oh, that happens very often. Let's understand a person's journey. Meditating regularly does not make me an authentic, complete person 100% of the time. I am as human as the next. I have my flaws. I say or do things which are not authentic or true to my nature. It happens often or consistently, because it's all very subjective words. But right now, I'm giving the podcast and we are speaking, and from whatever people will gather from this, they will expect, oh, if he's a meditator, he's this, I don't know, quote unquote person with, the priest like person. And it's not about that. It's about where you came from to what you are today and how you see yourself going. So I'll put it in a simple way. The difference between being inauthentic today versus earlier is I recognize it happening while it's happening. And I'm aware of it. And it's a lot less than what it was earlier. So, for example, if 5 years ago I got bad news about something, I lost a contract, I would be upset for 2 days. 2 years ago, I would be upset about it for one day. Today, I would still be upset, but I'll be upset for 1 hour. So, from 5 years ago till today, I still get upset. But instead of being upset for 2 days, now I'm just upset for an hour. So, in the same way, if I was more inauthentic or more inconsistent in how I approach things, because when you're always selling a service, you're so eager to win the business and to hustle, you end up saying things which are not true just to get the business. And I recognize that. And that also worked for me. So it's not like it did not work. It worked extremely well. I was able to sell ice to an Eskimo. My people will be, Ashwin, you go out there because you can bullshit your way out of this and you can land the account. And that was my USP. I could sell in the middle of the night and I could pick up an account and I could out hustle. And it did not make me think twice. I could sleep beautifully at night. It did not bother me at all. But as you keep moving on, you're just more aware of it and it's not consistent. Now, when I look at it, it's not a way I could sustain. And now, yeah, I do fall into some habit patterns, but that is all part of the journey of meditation. Not to say that those are bad or immoral, or you do what you have to do to succeed and you have your behaviors that have helped you in the past. But you also see there are different ones that can help you in the future and a better way. So those are not the only ways. So I think this whole process of, when you say, "Well, how do I know when I'm inauthentic?" When you're in touch with yourself, when you spend an hour in silence with yourself every day, you can listen to yourself pretty well. And you're not clouded by all the noise and distraction 24 hours. You have that 1 hour where you're listening to yourself, and then all of it comes clear. If you ask me personally as to which is a better time, for me, it is as soon as I wake up in the morning, because then I equate it to just waking up. It's like how when you wake up, you go and you brush your teeth. So you combine it. For me, if I had to meditate separately during the day, I would have to create a habit around it. Okay, I do this, then I meditate. I personally find it easiest the first thing to do when I wake up. Some people find it easier before going to bed. Some people find it easier mid morning or in the afternoon. So it all depends on the lifestyle you have, your commitments, what does your average day look like. For me, what was important is to stay consistent to a regular time. And I found early morning before the day begins, I found it easiest. Number one. Number two, the world hasn't woken up, or it's still very quiet, so it's a good time. In ancient spiritual, I will not use the word Hindu because that makes it religion, but the clock, as per the universal laws of nature, the 24 hours have three different qualities. They have the quality of rest or lethargy, the quality of work or activity, and the quality of purity or complete silence. The active hours for work is from 6 o'clock in the morning till 6 o'clock in the evening. Those hours are considered to be the best hours to work. You're aligned with the energy of the universe for work. Between 6 in the evening till 4 o'clock in the morning is considered the hour of rest. People are tired, or your mind changes. And the best hours for meditation, if you look up any meditation or spiritual text, is between 4 and 6 in the morning. That is the purest time. Now, I don't start at 4. No one I know has started at 4, except when I do the courses. At that time, some of the courses we begin at 4 o'clock, and it's beautiful. But I personally do it when I wake up about 6 o'clock in the morning. There used to be a time when I used to meditate at 10 o'clock in the morning. There were times I did it after work. There were times I did it before sleeping. So it depends on you. I would suggest first thing in the morning because then
Mhm.
it's done. I meditate in the morning and the evening. When you wake up with that positive frame of mind, when
Mm.
you start your day with silence, reflection, and meditation, then you can deal with the day, or you handle it a lot more differently as opposed to waking up and just running and charging into your day. You use that sacred hour to recharge your batteries. And then during the day, the battery does get drained due to various events. And I find the evening meditation a good way to close my day. So I find the morning meditation a great way to start the
Mhm.
day. Then the day it's got its own energy. And in the evening, I find the meditation a good way to release whatever has happened during the
Mhm.
day, to be in a good frame of mind for the rest of the evening and my night's sleep.
I've also now started practicing twice a day, and they do have different qualities and energy to both of them. And I enjoy both of them a lot. And what I find so interesting is that it's gone from what Ashwin described, this idea of kind of a little bit of work to get the habit. But now, as he said, like I've fallen in love with the practice. I cannot not do it anymore. And it's become part of me already in 6 months. After 3 months, I already felt like this is something, this is now a lifestyle. This is never, ever going to go away. It's who I am. And that is very interesting as well when you think about creating new habits. It's even in the Atomic Habits book. I don't know if you've ever read it, but it's like the ultimate habit is when it becomes part of your identity. Initially, it's uncomfortable. You're not used to it. It's weird sitting down and what am I supposed to be doing and all that kind of stuff. That is where I found as well having courses, having a community is so helpful. I was trying to do meditation by myself with an app. It just wasn't working for me. I missed structure, I missed guidance, I missed understanding what it was all about. What was I actually doing in meditation? I was supposed to calm my mind, but it wasn't working. My mind was still all over the place. It was more this I have to or I should meditate. And now it's like, I want to meditate because it's great. It makes you feel wonderful. Ashwin, maybe for anyone else listening, anything that we haven't covered yet, what words of advice would you give to someone who's curious about it, doesn't know where to start?
So the first advice I'd say is sign up for Karin Holley coaching because she's amazing. More One of the most beautiful and gifted people I know, a wonderful human being.
That's sweet.
So I want to thank you and thank you. I'm sorry, I'm going to mispronounce your name. Maglena? Is that okay? Thank you for your questions and your patience and smiling through what appears to be a complete ordeal. You're a meditator at heart. So I give you 11 on 10 for sitting through with this. The organization is called The Art of Living. And living a life is also an art. We pick up a lot of skills in life, history, geography, mathematics, painting, sport. But one of the skills that is lacking is how do we live this life? The art of living. And the more skillful you are at living your life, you are able to extract so much joy and meaning from it. It goes from being a chore or a drudge to an adventure. And you experience your life between your ears. It's not what's happening outside, it's always how you perceive it and what's going on in your mind body complex. Your whole life happens within you. And to experience that, there are a lot of courses. I recommend The Art of Living simply because it's something that I do myself. And I can say, yes, this is the real deal. So sign up for a basic course. It's the best investment you will make in yourself. If it is not worth it, I would say I stand guarantor you can get the full money back from me.
All right, you hear that, Magdalena? There's no excuse anymore. I want to thank Ashwin wholeheartedly for your time and your incredible insights about the importance of managing your energy, but I guess also just life through breath and meditation. If you know of anyone else who wants to gain more energy or manage their mind and well-being in order to increase their impact, I'd love to connect with them. Thank you so much. Until next time.